All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hjalmar Nilsonne, and I'm the CEO of a disaggregation company called Watty. It's been really fun to be here and hang out with you today. We are here today because we're announcing something that we hope will be of some value to the NILM community, bring some clarity about what's actually working and not, and so on. So at Watty, we have focused a lot on collecting a high quality, really big ground truth data set so that we actually know what we're doing. And what we're announcing today is that later this year, we're going to release part of this data set to the NILM community to do work on. And we're super excited about that. Now I'm going to start and tell you a little bit about Watty as a company, what we're doing, what our plans are. And then Anders will take over. He's from the machine learning team and tell you more about the data collection we've been doing and the data set that's going to become available. So Watty as a company, we're about a very simple thing. Our mission is to build incredible services that help people and company to save energy more effectively. And the method we've chosen to do that is, as you all can guess, disaggregation. So we are a disaggregation company. We're based in Stockholm, Sweden. We are, like all the co-founders, are alumni from KTH, which is the engineering university in Sweden. And we're currently about 15 people working on the project full time. And before I go into what we've been doing, I'll briefly mention what we've chosen not to do, which is typically equally important when it comes to sort of your strategy for solving a problem. So there's been a lot of pressure on us to go down different paths in our sort of mission of building this company. The first one that we've heard a lot is, don't worry about the disaggregation tech. Just sort of promote yourself, tell everyone that you can do this, hope that you get some clients, hire some smart people, and sort of bet that you can solve this problem fast enough. We call this sort of the Kickstarter method of building a disaggregation company. The other thing we've seen a lot is sort of the opposite, which is like disaggregation is just too complicated. No one has really solved it. You can't build a business around it. Why don't you just do that stuff that works, which is sort of basic comparison on the bill. Power has already done it. It's very safe. And there's been a lot of pressure for us to go down that route. And then we have a third type of people who think that actually disaggregation doesn't even matter anyway. Like products are all about design and just make something that looks really cool, a really fancy iPhone app, and who cares if the algorithms are right? You should hire designers and not machine learning people, right? So there's been tremendous pressure on us throughout the years to go down these different paths. And we've been a little bit controversial in doing the exact opposite. So instead of doing that, we have doubled down from the really beginning of just getting the tech right. Like if the disaggregation doesn't work, there's no value in the product. So we have no intention of pretending that something is working that isn't. We've been very transparent from day one that we're just going to focus on doing it right. So the first decision we've had to make was what to focus on. So we've focused on the data set that we thought was most realistic to become available, which is smart meter data. With the smart meters, you can read in a cheap way with a simple blink interface. Lots of companies here today who are doing that. And that seems to be the most realistic idea about how disaggregation will be rolled out in the near term. So we're only focusing on that data set. No harmonics, nothing like that, just the smart meter data. And finally, we have the ground truth data set. So we focus a lot of our effort and money into actually building up a substantial data set where we can understand ourselves what is working, what isn't working, and we can prove to third parties that we actually have something that works in these cases, and maybe in these cases, it works less well. And it's part of this data set, of course, that we'll be opening up to the NILM community. So what we're doing today, we have a very simple hardware. This is a blink reader. There's nothing unique about how this reader is set up. We simply collect, store the blinks, and send it to the cloud. We work with clients today who have their own hardware. That's fine. As long as we can get the energy data, we can disaggregate the main signal. And then we have a live sort of cloud service where we take the mains, we break it down. You all know this. And then we have an app where we break it down into the relevant categories. And as I'll be talking about in a minute, we're doing all of this live right now for a bunch of customers. So this is the basic system. Collect the blink, run the disaggregation, present the results in the app. Earlier in January this year, we closed funding after showing that actually there seemed to be a lot of substance in the models. It was time to start shaping the company much more towards commercialization than sort of ground research. This is the team of Watty today. We're about 15 people. This is outside our lovely office in Gamla Stan, if you've been to Stockholm. And what we're doing right now as a company is basically three things. What we call alpha testing, it's commercialization with customers, and it's technology benchmark. So the alpha testing is we put up the hardware, unfortunately, we don't have smart meters here right now, but if we were in Sweden or the Nordics or many other places, you could just take our hardware home, install it, open the app, and you would have disaggregated information there. We've shown that it works end-to-end. Right now, we have about 75 different homes who are streaming data to us simultaneously, and we disaggregate somewhere between 5 to 10 categories of appliances with these different homes. So that's been a huge step for us, obviously. So we've been running the alpha since maybe March this year. Second thing we're doing is now that the technology is getting more mature, working with clients to figure out how does this add value to their bottom line? How can we find a model where we can scale this really well so that we can reach a lot of people? So that's about finding the sort of the technology cases where disaggregation makes a lot of sense. As for sort of for our thinking, there's no such thing as working disaggregation or not working disaggregation. There are just cases where you can do well and cases where you're not doing well. So this is all about finding the cases where we do add value good enough today, focusing on them, and then finding the business model that makes that work so that you can scale for those cases. And those cases tend to be now the majority of households, which is our focus. Finally, something we've been involved with recently is technology benchmarks. So for the past few months, some very large client has benchmarked what we're doing, compared it with what some other folks are doing. And this has been a tremendous fun for us to be part of. The way we've set this up from our side is what we call completely blind. That means they have streamed data through our API. We've never seen this data before. We have no idea what they're going to send us. We start disaggregating that in real time. And then we have a results API where they can fetch the results of our disaggregation anytime they like. So we've been doing this. And so they send the same data to all the different vendors, and then they look at the results. So Watty was the only company who were willing to do it completely blind, no manual inspection of what data we're going to get. We're the only company doing it in real time. We're the only company completely transparent about our results and not sending results maybe once a day or once a week when you've had a chance to look through the results. And the results have been very encouraging. Watty has been the #1 company in predicting which appliances were on, when they were on, and the number of appliances we're able to detect. So we feel confident that we chose the right path in being very data-driven, go out there, collect the data, just focus on getting that right, and then look at the commercial aspect when you know the value you can deliver. So that's the data set we've been building up that's been enabling all of these things I mentioned just now. So Anders, please tell the lovely audience more about that data.
Thank you very much. So, do you hear me now? Yeah. Thank you very much. Excited to be here. My name is Anders. I'm part of the machine learning and algorithm development team at Watty. So I'll talk briefly to you about the Watty dataset, which we're planning to release parts. First of all, I'm going to give you a bit of background on how we ended up, like why and how we started building up our own dataset. So basically, when we started developing these aggregation algorithms, we very soon realized that it was very difficult to get hold of relevant data, both for training and evaluation of algorithms, as I suppose you all know. When we turned to research, realized there was a lack of open code and data to reproduce the results that were presented. Even in the cases where there are some data sets used for benchmarking, often the characteristics and the quality of these are such that researchers have to choose certain subparts or have to omit data, which makes it very challenging to really compare the results and make any sense out of it. And last but not least, even if we have some data sets to train our models and to evaluate, there was no way for us to really make sure that once we have developed algorithms, like how can we know that they really will work in a real rollout? And as a company commercializing this whole idea, it's really what's most essential to us. We need to make sure that once this is rolled out, it has to work. Probably won't get a second chance if it wouldn't. So that last part was important to us. Yeah, given these preconditions, we basically had no choice but to realize we have to start collecting our own data and build up a relevant data set for energy disaggregation. So since then, we made data collection a core part of our business. As of today, we've collected over 100,000 appliance days, and we collect about 20 million data points daily. And controlling both the data quality and the process for collecting the data is really key to what we do in everything. So the data collection process, I mean, from the algorithmic perspective, the data collection process is fully integrated in our process for developing algorithms. So first of all, we collect data from households, where we gather mains, the total consumption data from link meters, along with detailed appliance level measurements to get the ground truth. We store this data, analyze it, do our development work, train models, evaluate models, but then we come to the really crucial part where we actually test the models on new data that has never been seen, probably never been seen at all, even by the model team, because it was like data collected over the last week. And this is how we try to verify that whatever we did during this process actually has some generalizing abilities to unseen data. And this is probably the part where it's most difficult if you don't collect your own data. I mean, you have this data set, and after a while, no matter if you do like leave out families in training, after 6 months or so working on this data set, you will end up overfitting in a more general sense into this data. So this is the process we're trying to follow. And after having done that, we can analyze the results and also use that to guide the process for collecting data. So if we find, for example, that for example, houses with a lot of electric heating obviously get a very noisy pattern. It might be very difficult to extract, let's say, the stub in houses with a lot of electric heating. Then, of course, we need to find more houses with electrical heating and with stubs to be able to improve in the specific parts. So working with machine learning and this aggregation algorithm development, to me, it's a huge privilege to actually be part of this process where we can talk to the data collection officer and let her know that actually right now we're not performing very well in this category of houses or these appliances. We need more data. So in this sense, the data set might not be perfectly representative statistically of the houses, but we're pretty sure that we're focusing on collecting data that's difficult. So at least we hope to get them to be on the safe side with the results that we get. And how do we do this? Yeah, the overall concept is pretty straightforward. But as Hjalmar said, we spent a lot of time and effort to invested in building up a system that's robust enough to build up a ground truth data set. So we have our own hardware for collecting the total consumption data from the Blink interface of existing smart meters, along with the various hardware used for measuring the consumption of appliances plugged into the wall, along with, of course, measurements on fuse boxes where we can't plug it in or use the wall plug. And this is sent to the cloud, where we have built up a system to be able to easily deploy a lot of these setups in many households and continuously move them into new households to continue to collect data. So what we get is a high quality ground truth data set, where we have Blink meter data. Usually we use it to convert it to 1 second power time series. Along with the ground truth, which is also measured on detailed appliance level, usually like 20 appliances plus for the major appliances, where we also have 1 second resolution power readings. And this is what we're working on, both for training and for evaluating our algorithms. no matter how much effort you put into like building a robust system, there will always be some deficiencies, and we're aware of that. But we've done everything we can to avoid them. But in the very last stage, we always manually inspect everything. So we have currently data cleaning interns, which browse through all the data and make sure there's no unexpected deficiencies in the data. So we make sure to, in that case, sort out regions where there might be unusual values or holes, and make sure that the data is time synced between the sub-measurements and the total consumption. So we hope by releasing part of this data set to the NILM community that we can somehow contribute with some more data that is hopefully like easier to work with when it comes to NILM research. What we believe that we can contribute with is that it's realistic main data for the use case where you get it from the smart meters. It will be converted to 1 second resolution power time series in the best possible way. But that's the kind of data you can get from existing smart meters. Yes. So secondly, we will have full coverage of at least 20 plus of the major appliances with also 1 second resolution synced with the total consumption. And last but not least, this data has been gathered from the beginning to be used for disaggregation. So we try to make sure that all the parts of it are suitable for being used for training and evaluation disaggregation algorithm. And on top of this, I think an important aspect is that this is not a one-off. I mean, we're continuously collecting new data. So if this turns out to be useful for the NILM community, it's definitely likely that we can continue to, as our data set grows, that we can also continue to release more samples from it. We spoke earlier about, this is just a tiny example of, it's a washing machine cycle, about half an hour of the first heating period, and then some rinsing cycles here. And this is the kind of data quality you can expect from smart meters. So the green curve is the sub-measurements, obviously, and then on top of that, we have like in this case, very well in synced 1 second resolution mains consumption data. Just a short, brief example. In the initial release, we're planning on releasing 6 families that are selected out of the full range of families that we have sub-measured and collected data from, which we think will be representative of as much as possible of the diversity of different kinds of family that can be found. The mains will be from smart meter readings. We will have 1 second resolution measurements for all the major appliances, and the duration will be about 4 to 6 weeks for each of these families. And if you're interested, you can already go and sign up at watty.io/wattydataset, and we'll make sure that you are up to date with the latest information about this release. And we're here really to get your feedback, because I mean this is not already prepared for you to download. So we want to just make sure that once we release this, that it's something that's needed. So free to ask questions and come up with